Hey, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory that's due to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, who all learn this truth from who do well. Peace and salutations to the 144,000 and the rest of the elect. And to you I say shalom. Coming to you back with another lesson through the Spirit. And I'm going to entitle this one, The Economy Will Not Bounce Back. This economy based off the US dollar, off the petrodollar, that everybody is putting their time, effort, and energy into. They're investing all their blood, sweat, and tears into this economy, this system, into the American dream. But now that people are starting to find out that the American dream is all BS, that is all an illusion that was created by the self-proclaimed white man Esau Edom, starting with the elite banking families from the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, that created this economy, this system of constantly being in a rat race, never truly getting ahead, because ultimately that's how this system was designed. Yes, some people make more money than others that ultimately live in a bigger box. You know, they may drive a nicer car, but you still got to go to that same job, even though after you pay your mortgage, you still got to pay those property taxes. And if you don't pay those property taxes, then Esau can take your house away because you ain't paid the taxes. Letting you know that ultimately we're not free. But our people, the Israelites, the 2/3 of our people, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, they bought into the system so much that they don't know anything else. They think that America, Babylon the Great, is the end-all, be-all, a 9 to 5, being stuck in traffic for 2 hours every day, having to fight these demonic ass people driving crazy. Jake think that that's as good as it gets. It's a job in Babylon, the Great America, being subject to payments, like it says in the Baruch of chapter 3 and verse 8. But really, this is as good as it gets for, first and foremost, Esau Edom, the self-proclaimed white man, and for these heathens. It don't get no better for them from on here on down the road, because ultimately they're about to go into slavery. This is Ecclesiastes 12 and verse 3. In the day when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease, because they are few, and those that look out of the windows be darkened. So this is the times we're coming into, the time of Jacob's trouble, a time like no other, when there's not going to be any jobs, there's not going to be any food in the grocery stores, any running water, the grid, down, blackouts, because ultimately this is Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai bringing these great judgments upon the planet Earth for all the wickedness that is going on. But right now we're at the beginning of sorrows. We're at the beginning stages of Jacob's trouble, of World War III, of all hell breaking loose, and ultimately the mass implementation of the mark of the beast, which is the RFID microchip. That's why all these jobs are being replaced by AI, automation. Jobs are getting sent overseas because it's a planned demolition. It's not by accident that the economy is collapsing, the dollar's being devalued on a daily. No, it's all Esau Edom purposely crashing this economy, crashing this system, so he could bring in that great reset. And also he could bring in that solution, that savior, which is going to be that MOTB, that RFID microchip. So all these job losses, it's all by design. It's not because, oh man, there's no jobs available, there's not this and that. No, it's all by design. So Esau can get these people to bow down to this new world order that he's about to implement upon the planet Earth. Says verse 4, Ecclesiastes 12:4. And the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low. And that's what's happening. All these doors in these streets, in these cities, these businesses, these restaurants, these distribution centers, they're all closing down because people don't have that same disposable income that they used to have 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago. People are barely able to make ends meet. They're barely able to pay their rent, barely able to pay their groceries, or some people are having to choose between groceries and rent, paying the light bill or the AC bill, so on and so forth. Because this system wasn't designed for people to truly get rich. Yeah, some Edomites, these self-proclaimed white people, and even some of them our own people, starting with the celebrities, but even Jake that have started their own business. At one point in time, they were doing pretty well for themselves, but Esau, which is the self-proclaimed white man, is putting that squeeze up on the whole world because he wants all these mom and pop shops to close down. He wants all these farmers in these rural areas to have to move to the city because they don't have any work out there. So he can ultimately squeeze everybody in a tight space. That's why you have these 15-minute cities. You have all these AI centers, data centers being built in the rural areas, so people have to move out forcefully into the cities. That's why people don't have that same optimism, that bright look to the future that they used to have back in the day, because people are looking at the future with a grim, gloomy outlook, because it's not looking good for America, Babylon the Great, along with the whole world. Once this economy, this society here in America collapses, that's going to lead to the collapse of the whole world, because everything's tied here to this American society. America's the biggest consumer in the world. This is Isaiah 19 and verse 14. The Lord, Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai, had mingled a perverse spirit in the midst thereof, and they have caused Egypt to err in every work thereof, as a drunken man staggereth in his vomit. So that's what the Lord is doing to America, Babylon the Great. He's putting that spirit of division, that spirit of sedition, people being on edge, people ready to off each other, delete each other. And that's why you're going to have a civil war, race war. You're going to have all hell breaking loose, because there's not going to be any jobs. There's not going to be any food in the grocery stores. So what is all these people in America that are so used to having the comforts, the dainties, they're going to bug out. They're going to bug out because they don't have any Wi-Fi. They don't have any electricity. And ultimately because they don't have any answers to why things are happening the way they are. Because ultimately it's the will of Yahweh Ba'Shem Shai for these people to off themselves, these 2/3 Israelites, these heathens, these red-blooded Edomites, these patriots that love America so much. Says verse 15, neither shall there be any work for Egypt, which the head or a remnant of the so-called wealth, so-called riches that you had before the collapse of this economy, before the collapse of this dollar. This is Jeremiah 15, is ways of America, Babylon the Great, which is all leads to death, the mole, alphabet agenda, feminism, democracy, women being out of order, children, being out of order. This is what happens when America goes to those countries and establishes their so-called democracy. It's nothing but a death style. It says verse 8, Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed, how for her take balm for her pain, if so be she may be healed. And that's the thing. America, Babylon the Great, Mystery Babylon, is not going to be healed, because that was the last hope for for America to bounce back and somehow be healed. Their last hope was in Donald Trump, Nero 47. Because they were clapping and hollering 2 years ago, oh man, he's going to bounce back. We're going to get Biden out of there. Everything's going to go back to normal, pre-2020, pre-19. And really, these Edomites, they wanted the America to go back to that era during the 50s and the 60s. You know, when Jake couldn't just be out and about. Jake couldn't be out, dealing with the Edomite women. Jake couldn't be out on the highways and byways pushing this word out, pushing Yahweh Bashemel Shai, pushing the prophecy, calling Esau a devil straight to his face. But now, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashemel Shai, now that's possible, because his kingdom, this Edomite kingdom, Esau's kingdom is crumbling and is falling fast. So it's not going to be healed. So whatever hope that these people have, from the 2/3 of our people and these heathens, and even these elites, these Rothschilds and Rockefellers, 9, we would have healed Babylon. But she is not healed. Forsake her, and let us go everyone into his own country. For her judgment reacheth unto heaven, and is lifted up even to the skies. So it's to the point where Yahweh Bashemel Shai is done, just rebuking and warning, his people, telling them to get right, because this place, it's about to get destroyed by thermonuclear destruction. Our people don't want to hear that. Our people want to hear the smooth words, prosperity doctrine. Oh, America, oh man, it's gonna bounce back. Oh hell yeah, let's go. Because Jake don't want to leave America. And 2/3 of our people, they've been so brainwashed into believing that this place is the end all be all, that there's no other person, other nation upon the planet Earth that can rule the earth. So that's why they can't see another man ruling besides Esau. That's why Yahweh Bashemel Shai is going to have to leave the 2/3 of our people. They don't want to get the knowledge, wisdom, and understanding of Yahweh Bashemel Shai. So the Lord is going to have to leave the 2/3 of our people to be left here and be burned up, because that's the only solution for the 2/3 of our people. All their hopes in this place to bounce back, it's not going to happen. Let me get this last one. Oh, let's see. Because the only kingdom and rulership that's never gonna be taken down is gonna be the kingdom of Yahweh Bashemel Shai, the kingdom of heaven, that's gonna be established upon the planet Earth. So this is, let's see. This is Daniel 7:14. It says, I'm going to start at verse 13. It says, I saw in the night visions, and behold, one like the Son of Man came with the clouds of heaven, going into Yahweh Shai, and came to the Ancient of Days, and they brought him near before him. Verse 14, and there was given him dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all people, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away. Kingdom that's going to rule upon the planet Earth, because it's going to be a physical kingdom upon upon the earth, the kingdom of heaven, that is never going to be brought down. Because ultimately the nation of Israel was given that eternal blessing, having dominion upon the planet earth, having immortality, the new bodies, and ultimately having all these heathen nations. That wasn't given unto Esau. He was given this kingdom, but it was only for a temporary time. And his time of ruling upon the planet earth and having the Israelites under subjection is almost up. Deliverance is almost here for the remnant, the elect of Yahweh Ba'Shem El Shai, and judgment and destruction for the 2/3 of our people and these heathens. That's what's knocking at the door, not the healing of America, Babylon the Great. But that's pretty much that this was edifying unto the elect. I want to give all praises